Probably nobody got a notification.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
You're in violation of secure communication procedures, Commodore.
So we just went ahead and fixed the glitch.
There is no America. There is no democracy.
Our fifth objective, a new world order.
There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West.
Right-wing conspiracy.
What do you call it when the assassins accuse the assassin?
A new world order.
Thank you for plugging in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
Well, just a second there, Professor. We fixed the glitch.
I'm your host, Professor Thomas Henry Horan.
He reads everything.
Oh, you better bet your bippies he reads everything. Good morning and welcome back. Let me double check the audio once really quick, and we'll move this crate right along. What the hell happened there? I don't need this. Okay. I don't need these problems. I got another notification. That's good. I know there's kind of a limit to notifications. Yeah, the audio is much better. Much better. Okay. Also, the problem with the other method is if anything goes wrong, the stream just stops and I don't get a few minutes. I get like 5 minutes to recover the stream this way. Like this, maybe. Just about like that. Hey, baby bull. Hey, Allard. Hey, Alpine. Okay, glad you guys are back. Outstanding. Well, test complete. Well, not complete. I'm going to try to go members only again here in a minute. I'll wait till some suckers log on first. In the meantime, I can get started. So, let's go back to rule number 1 of cold case investigation. You must, when we talk about what happened, that does not mean you start in by saying, well, this prostitute went down this alley and Jack the Ripper got her. That's not what happened. If you're going to do cold case investigation, and this case has gone very cold. The disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's old bag has gone very cold. I'm not convinced she's dead. I'm not convinced she's dead. If she was alone and coughing up blood, or even if she was coughing up blood and didn't get to an emergency room within 5 minutes, she's dead. But I haven't seen any. Nobody. Listen. Rule number 1: nobody, no homicide. Rule number 2. What happened was a police investigation. So when we start, the first place we start when we say what happened is what happened in the police investigation. So what happened in the police investigation in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is Sheriff's Department got they're in Tucson, they got a 911 call. This audio has not been released, correct? Should have left that tab open. Any audio or transcript of Nancy Guthrie case 911 call been released or leaked? Which is funny, because why wouldn't they release a 911 call? How is releasing the 911 call going to help the kidnapper get away with it? Well, they could beep out any information. Hold on a minute. The 2911 calls? You got to see this. The family's reporting call, February 1st, 12:03. This is the official call made by a family member. We don't even know who made the call. Shortly after discovering Nancy was missing, this recording remained sealed. The screaming woman call. A 911 recording leaked online featuring a witness reporting a woman screaming from a blue-gray Chevy Malibu near Nancy's neighborhood. Sheriff Chris Danos officially debunked this as a domestic violence situation that was investigated. Well, maybe what happened to Nancy was domestic violence. It doesn't have to be spousal to be domestic violence. Could be any immediate family member. She wasn't getting Alzheimer's. She wasn't getting Alzheimer's. That was investigated that same night and found to be completely unrelated to the Guthrie case. Depends on what you mean by Guthrie case. So we're going to take a look at that. My question for these good people is, what did they say? Well, I'm going to start parsing through every word that has come out of Savannah Guthrie's mouth since the day she was born, because that's what she does. She is a crackerjack criminal trial litigator. In England, there's a solicitor and there's a barrister. Only barristers argue cases in court, in front of the bench. Only barristers approach the bar. In America, any attorney can do either one, but people who specialize in actually going to court and arguing big cases in court are called litigators. She was a litigator at Aiken Gump until she miraculously got the job sitting next to, what was his name? Matt Lauer? Whatever happened to Matt? We do know for a fact that at 12:15 p.m., the Pima County, the first deputies arrive at the property. This is a nice neighborhood, just a few minutes outside. Tucson's a small town. And they haven't seen her mother, and she didn't show up at her friend's house for church. She used to go to her friend's house, and they would gather and watch TV church. Supposedly, the same church that Savannah goes to in New York. And her mom would watch church and watch for Savannah. Supposedly, nobody in the family tried to call her that morning to see if she woke up okay. Morning, Ma. Did you sleep okay? Did you eat breakfast? What'd you have? How are you feeling? Did you take your medicine? Do you have a ride to church? Apparently, they were not in the habit of doing that because nobody did it that morning. They waited till they got a call from her friend saying she didn't show up. And they didn't know whether she'd arranged a ride. Sometimes she had a ride. Sometimes she took an Uber. So knowing she had money for Ubers. That's what they tell the sheriff. The sheriff, I haven't finished this yet, but I do have it somewhere. You might as well see it. Is it on? Is it in this? Is it in this slideshow? They put out a Silver Fox alert at 6:45 p.m. February 1st saying she's missing and has medical issues and may be in medical distress, and that's it. Nobody said anything about a break-in, a kidnapping, anything. Nobody said anything about that as far as we know on February 1st. As far as we know, and I'm going to parse these statements. If they want to release statements to prove me wrong, that's nice. But I'm going to parse what they've said publicly. No, well, I will parse anonymous rumors, but they won't be given any credence. Because it's obvious nobody even looked on the front porch. and nobody checked the doorbell videos. There's this myth, I think. How do we know? Angie's Nest subscription was lapsed. How do we know she ever had one to begin with? Right. No, who said? But whoever said it was recently expired or canceled? And when? This is what AI is pretty good at. It's good at smart Googling. It's good at scanning articles and summarizing things. It's good at that. The specific claim that the subscription was inactive or had expired was first popularized by Cameron Guthrie and then echoed in media coverage in the weeks following. In the initial days, when the lack of continuous footage became a sticking point for the unwitting public, Cameron Guthrie, Charles Cameron Guthrie, Charles Jr., Savannah's brother, explained to journalists that the camera didn't record the full night because the Nest Aware subscription had lapsed. Now, when did he say this? See, he's very in the background, and there's a reason why. Can you find the original article? Because we're going to talk about that in the members only. The Digital Fog, Inside the Get-Through Mystery, during a high-profile segment titled What Date Did That Air? What date did that first air? See, they don't come out with that right away. I'm gonna parse through everything that Savannah says, because I've noticed that she's pretty careful not to actually lie. If she's going to lie, she'll attribute it to an anonymous source. But she won't lie and put her name on it. She's smart. Kash Patel is clever, but he's stupid. You know what I'm saying? He's clever, but he's stupid. Aired on February 24th. See, there's a media blitz on the 24th of February. They want me to pay for this app. Cameron Guthrie. Cameron Guthrie announces. So the family said that there was a subscription and that it had lapsed. Did he say who was responsible for it? Announces Nest Aware lapsed. This is what you people are supposed to do. You're supposed to watch these TV shows and give me transcripts. You've been replaced by AI. But you still need to feed the... He's got to feed the monkey, man. You got to feed the monkey, man. You got to feed the monkey. If you want to watch the show, you got to feed the monkey. It's all about the money. Today on Court TV. The same time, okay, so we'll come back to February 24th. See, AI can be useful, but you got to double check shit. Yeah. Okay. The sheriff kept screwing up pressers? I don't know. Okay, Baby Bull. Now, Baby Bull, you know we don't go off on tangents on this podcast. Don't get me started on that case. We'll be here all year. We got other cases. I'm only wasting time on this case because I've been telling you that the Zodiac Killer stunt was the same thing. Actual murders covered up for by a publicity stunt. These letters. But they weren't just a prank written. Okay? They were one of the most important investigating officers in the whole Zodiac case who stayed in the background. He never appeared in any interviews. He didn't do an interview with Fincher. But half the Zodiac evidence you've ever heard of, he collected. And he's the guy who wrote the letters to the newspapers. It wasn't a prank. But he did two things that were very clever. He put enough information in the letters to prove that the letters were a hoax, because if he got caught, he'd be hoaxing himself into the gas chamber. Second thing he did that was very clever was he had created the persona of a spy. He had created the illusion of a disgruntled World War II veteran. Right? So that he would be recruited by the KGB. I haven't begun to tell you anything about it. You don't know anything. You know nothing about the Zodiac case. All you know is the myth that was created by Graysmith, which he built on top of the myth of the letters, which he knew were a hoax the whole time. He always knew they were a hoax. NBC Universal, and I'm about to trash one of their biggest stars because she's asking for it, made a documentary series that was inspired by the book. Read the book first, watch the series, then tune into the Stones Unturned podcast. Well, go ahead and plug into the Stones Unturned podcast. Okay? And the Son of Sam murders. The craziest conspiracy theory turns out to be the truth about the Zodiac Killer murders is far crazier and bizarre and disturbing and important than you can possibly imagine. We'll come back to that later. The Son of Sam case. I was going to start off this podcast while the series was in development. I'll get some practice being on air and I'll get a thing going. I'll debunk one of these crazy conspiracy theories, like Son of Sam was part of some drug smuggling, blah, 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 blah. It turns out that proved it's completely true. Once again, letters written to the newspapers, the sole intent is to change the narrative. I didn't misspell announces, did I? Back to February 1st. Nobody treated this like a potential kidnapping at all. Nobody said anything about finding any blood on the front porch, and nobody said anything about noticing the Nest camera. Nobody said anything about even looking for any videos. I'm not convinced there ever was a subscription. Because they said, well, we checked the cameras and something's wrong. They never said anything about that. Not even on February 2nd. On February 2nd, the sheriff gave a press conference. This is after Savannah Guthrie flew into town. You don't know anything about these people. The sheriff is a Democrat. He is an elected official in that county. but he was appointed to the post because somebody had to resign or whatever, and then he ran for election. There's no way he holds that job without massive support from Savannah's husband. You know who he is, right? I've preached about this every day. From Savannah's husband and Senator Mark Kelly, who's best friends with Savannah, and they grew up together in Tucson. So he says whatever they tell him to say. Actually, I've noticed that he barely does. They obviously don't get along, and that's fine. But the standard playbook is to start blaming the local police incompetence. See, they can't defend themselves. He can't divulge things about the case. That's against the law. But she can blab anything she wants to blab. She's a journalist. But I've noticed she doesn't lie. And I've noticed she doesn't leak things without... She's very careful, and I like that. I don't like sloppy opponents. I like careful, intelligent, well-trained opponents. She graduated magna cum laude from Georgetown University Law School. I didn't. She placed first in her pool of bar exam takers when she passed the bar exam. I didn't do that either. At the morning of the 2nd, 9:17 a.m., press conference. We believe she was taken against her will. Why? Nobody noticed the blood. Nobody noticed that there were videos missing from the doorbell camera, let alone nobody noticed that the doorbell camera was missing. They still haven't noticed. But KOLD, local TV affiliate, said that they received a ransom email. And then later, TMZ is going to claim they got one too. The one from TMZ is the interesting one. It's what I got together so far. What have I missed so far? Yeah, her husband, Feldman, invented crisis management. His firm, still. They know exactly how to control the narrative and why. They don't even really care if anybody believes it. They just want to make sure that the mainstream media has invested in a certain version of the story, and they are never going to go back on that. They don't have time. Once the narrative has finally been set, it will never change as far as the main media will concern, and they just really don't care about it. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. News flashes went out on the 1st that Savannah Guthrie's mother was missing, and they had no clue where she was. She was 84 years old, lived alone, had a pacemaker. They think she had a medical emergency and wandered off, and people are like, well, did you check the cameras? Did you check oh, we don't have any of that. So, as of the 2nd, now remember, Savannah is the biggest thing NBC has, and she had just announced she was recovering from vocal cord surgery. This took a while. Then this happened. She had to take a couple more months off. When she finally got back in the broadcast seat after a month of proving her voice is okay and getting this narrative under control, they announced that she's getting another show. Now she's getting a game show with Jimmy Fallon. But the way the public were taking this news that she allowed her elderly old mother to just wander off unsupervised, that wasn't good for ratings. And they postponed announcing that. Savannah said, I've been holding on to this secret for months. Really? How many months? So the next day, February 3rd, this guy from some independent news thing called News Nation, he just drives out to the house, which still has not been secured. We think she was taken against her will, but they didn't secure the crime scene. If you believed that, why didn't you secure the crime scene? I think he didn't secure the crime scene because he didn't believe it. Now watch this video that was done live. You think this is a good show. Watch this video. This was done live for his viewers. Is there audio? I've never listened to the audio of this. Apparently he's like, holy shit, there's blood all over the porch. You know, he's like, look at this. This video. Okay, so this is a follow-up to that, so I don't even care about the audio. Look at this. Look, just walk right up to the thing. See? There's no crime scene tape. Amazon drivers are leaving packages. So there wasn't any crime scene tape on the 2nd either. Because he got there the morning of the 3rd. Nobody in the Guthrie family mentioned anything about seeing any blood or the camera being missing, let alone checking for videos. At 12:12 on the 3rd, TMZ announced they got a ransom email, and guess who's going to vouch for the authenticity of that email? Because the one that came in, I haven't got. You guys probably know more about the ransom emails. On February 3rd, all of a sudden, TMZ gets a ransom email. Anybody who's ever known anything about any kidnapping case that ever happened knows that you leave the ransom note in the victim's bed, or if you're going to pile up her phone and her wallet and her watch and her keys, then you leave the ransom note there. You don't wait and then mail in the ransom note a week later. If you want the ransom, you need to let these. There was confusion over whether this was a kidnapping, so this was not a professional kidnapping. This is Google how to kidnap somebody, and the first thing I'll tell you is you got to leave the ransom note at the scene of the crime. You don't wait until after 2 or 3 days of media coverage. See, they didn't even get a ransom note, a real ransom note, until the sheriff had announced that this was probably a kidnapping. Then they start, and you get all kinds of fake ransom notes. How are you going to collect the ransom if everybody and their dog is going to jump up and try to claim the ransom because they know there was no ransom note? How are you going to collect the ransom? In the Zodiac killer case, the extortion letters to the newspapers were intended to change the narrative. In the Son of Sam case, the letters were intended to change the narrative. In the phony kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby, the ransom notes were intended to change the narrative. In the phony kidnapping of John Bonet, the ransom note was intended to change the narrative. There is a pattern here. And part of that pattern is when elites get caught doing this shit, the first thing they do is they blame the local police. The local police completely bungled the investigation. They exonerated me, but they bungled the investigation. They're going to do the exact same thing in this case. They're going to do the exact same thing in this case. The garbage, incompetent, worthless, dishonest, corrupt shitstorm of an investigation has exonerated my brother-in-law. You see the dilemma? The problem with lying is no matter how good you are at it, no matter how good your professors were that taught you how to do it in a court of law, the problem with lying is it catches up with you. Why do people lie? Because they can't control the truth. But they think they can control a lie. And like I said, they don't really care if I believe it. As long as the ratings are good and her QBR is high, to support a game show. As long as they don't blame her and her family for this, that's all that matters. And that's what these phony ransom notes do. This doesn't come in till the afternoon of February 3rd. So on February 4th, Savannah does this video on her social media, her Instagram or whatever. Oh, we want her back, but we demand proof of life before we pay the ransoms, which is what you're supposed to do, right? February 4th, the Hindustan Times is the only news outlet that mentioned this. Published February 4th, noon, Indian Standard Time. In shocking new details, it was revealed on Tuesday that Nancy's pacemaker stopped syncing with her Apple devices pre-dawn Sunday. A law enforcement source told Fox News that the implanted medical device lost contact with the Apple products belonging to Nancy around 2 a.m. Hours later, authorities reached Nancy's Arizona home around noon and found that her phone and Apple Watch were still inside the house. Apple Watch? So her Apple Watch recorded the stress of going through the kidnapping and the coughing up blood, right? But then they have said, no, they didn't sync her watch to her phone. This was only reported in the Hindustan Times. Why would she have an Android phone and an Apple Watch? That's what you're thinking. Let's ask AI. When did authorities explain why Nancy's Apple Watch did not record the stress of her kidnapping? Or coughing up blood. When did they explain that? I don't think they have. They're saying, well, we need to keep the time and date of the abduction a secret. Why? So the neighbors can't help you? How's the public going to help you identify? Have you seen any suspicious vehicles in the last 35 years? The first unofficial explanation March 2026. Similar to the Nest camera, the first unofficial explanation floated by family adjacent sources was that the watch was not being worn or was dead at the time of the event. Well, they revealed later, Savannah revealed it was on the charger. So it wasn't dead. And my watch is connected to my phone as long as I'm in the house, whether I'm wearing it or not. Now, if I'm not wearing it, it's not going to record my pulse rate, right? But why would Nancy leave her phone and her watch in the kitchen to go to bed when she knows she has serious medical conditions? Why would she do that? Because like I showed you yesterday, there are serious problems with the timing of that video. It was claimed she often forgot to charge the device or took it off at night. Well, she needed to because the Apple Watch is what killed her. Okay, so there's a reason why there is no... A pacemaker patient had a pacemaker, a Bluetooth pacemaker, and an Apple Watch, but there's absolutely no recording of any kind of medical stress taking place at any time. Was she wearing it when son-in-law dropped her home? I don't think he dropped her off in the driveway. I think they had one of those modern garage door openers that automatically opens when your car approaches the driveway. Just because the garage door opened and closed doesn't mean she went through it. Because you pull up to one of those garage doors, they open automatically, right? Because there's no keypad on that garage door. No, we don't. We just need to look at her Apple Watch data. If she was wearing it, we'd know exactly when she took it off. We would know the last time she put it on. And that's a deep, dark secret for some reason. Why? We don't know. It would give information to the kidnappers. What information? It's going to give information to the kidnappers they don't know. Why would a kidnapper take the watch off her wrist? The kidnapper's concerned that the phone and watch can be used to track the victim's whereabouts. Why would a kidnapper take the phone and watch off her wrist and put it on the charger? If it was on the charger. The TMZ ransom note mentioned the watch specifically and where it could be found. Why would the kidnapper do that? Because the only people who could possibly know that are the kidnapper and the family who were in the house Sunday. And Savannah flew home Sunday and got there around 3, 4 o'clock. So I've noticed that she never says anything that she saw it herself. But here's the funny thing. She's a TV reporter. She's an NBC News reporter. At what point did she take the phone out of her own pocket and start taking pictures of the crime scene as a reporter, just out of habit? Just taking video and pictures at the scene, just out of habit. Where's your pictures of the blood on the porch, Savannah? You're this big-time NBC journalist. Oh, boy. But I've noticed she's very careful about not saying something. She had personal knowledge of the crime scene, and that's all she's ever said. And she's never said anything. I'm going to get to February 24th and February 26th, some interviews that she gave. But her, like I pointed out yesterday, her watch could have been the cause of that coughing up blood. On February 7th, NPR confirms that the Apple Watch note to TMZ. FBI special agent in charge of the Bureau's Phoenix office, Heath Jenke, said that the FBI is taking the note seriously, made mention of particular details, including an Apple Watch and a floodlight. Well, Savannah knew all about it, and Savannah really, really, really needed a ransom note to come in someplace, and she really needed the public to know about it. So it's whether she sent the note to TMZ or not is not the point. We have half a dozen suspects, including a kidnapper who never existed. And 5 out of those 6 suspects have a reason to lie about it, have a reason to send in a phony ransom note. I'm not saying that proves they did, but this is not a ransom note, but it is awfully convenient to Savannah. But it's not a ransom note. This is not how it's done at all. But you shouldn't have done that. You should not have made it that convincing, because all that proves is you wrote it. You or your brother-in-law or somebody. There are only 6 possible suspects, unless you want to accuse the sheriff's office of faking a kidnapping. You shouldn't have done that. The guy who wrote the Zodiac Killer letters included details that the killer couldn't have known. He shouldn't have done that, but he did that in case he got caught. Just in case he got caught. I don't think Savannah sat down at her computer and sent this email. She's too careful. But her brother would know how to do it. In fact, her brother is the one who said that this was totally legit. And that was a legit Bitcoin account. Because he knows all about that stuff. Retired Air Force intelligence officer, he says. He could have done it. Not saying he did, but he could have. What I'm saying is, this note doesn't benefit the kidnappers. But it benefits Savannah. Because Savannah desperately needed to change this narrative. And that came in on February 3rd. By the end of the day, February 2nd, the public perception of this was pretty stinky. And Miracle of Miracles, TMZ. It wasn't just CBS News. It wasn't NBC News. It wasn't sent to a family member. It was sent to the tabloid. Is there a tabloid bigger than TMZ? Who just recently established a presence in Washington, D.C., by the way. And they are looking to score some exclusive interviews with high rating guests like Senator Mark Kelly. I just saw an article in Politico about TMZ starting to make a presence felt in Washington, D.C. this spring. We've seen this before. You know who the editor of the San Francisco Chronicle was at the time the Zodiac Killer letters were. See, the thing about the Zodiac Killer letters was the first letter, 3 copies of the first letter went to 3 newspapers. So those newspapers had to continue giving free publicity to what was, after that point, a Chronicle exclusive. The publisher of the Vallejo Crimes Herald, Vallejo was a very high crime town. The publisher of the Vallejo Times Herald immediately filed a complaint with the FBI for extortion against the unknown subject who had written the letter. Zodiac never wrote them another letter. He read their newspaper, you can tell that from reading his letters, but he never wrote them another letter. All the letters from that time went to the publisher of the Chronicle, which also owned the Examiner. So all the letters go to Chronicle Examiner after that. How did the killer know that he was facing a blackmailing charge, and why would he care? Filling in blanks, February 9th, all of the deadlines came and went. This is when the public really started listening to people saying this was a publicity stunt. And it doesn't help that they were planning to announce the game show in March, after she had fully recovered from her vocal cord surgery. No, people didn't know about that yet. She waited till a couple weeks ago to make the announcement. But she said, I've been sitting on this for a long time. I'll bet. So on February 9th, the deadlines come and go. Nothing has happened. Nothing's happened. And people are saying, this is some kind of publicity stunt. You're just trying to cover it right. And the public is starting to listen. And the network's getting worried. Believe me, I'm nobody, and you should have seen the way they worried over my image. Not that I'm not complaining. They're absolutely right. On February 10th, Kash Patel. If you locked Savannah Guthrie, Mark Kelly, and Kash Patel in a room for 5 minutes, Savannah Guthrie and Mark Kelly would walk out alive. This is frat boy blood feud going on between Kelly and Patel. And guess whose side Savannah's on? He does Savannah the biggest favor that has ever been done to a blonde TV news anchor. He produces this video that even the family said couldn't exist. You are watching The Perfect Crime. There has been no hint of a suspect. The body has not been recovered. Kash Patel didn't even give Google credit. He said his own team of cyber spies were able to get into Google servers and extract this one video clip that proves that Nancy was kidnapped, and I don't see proof of the kidnapping here. It's not against the law to walk up to somebody's front door and ring the doorbell. You might charge him with unlawful removing of dead flowers and sticking them in a camera holder. That's about all you can charge him with. I have already torn that video apart and will continue to do so. May 11th, Savannah Guthrie announces new hosting gig. Been holding this secret for a long time. Yeah. The network wanted to make sure. So our sources for all of our information are Savannah, possibly her brother once in a blue moon, and Kash Patel. Let's skip ahead to February 24th. 2 weeks later, the sheriff goes on the Today Show. Savannah's not there. She's still on leave. He says no timestamps or time and date metadata on any of the videos or pictures that you've seen on the internet. He said it's all pure speculation. Now, go ahead and call him a liar, because he's the one who exonerated the brother-in-law. If the brother-in-law is innocent, then there were no time and date stamps or metadata on those videos. And nobody said anything about it. There's no timestamps visible, and nobody has said, we checked the metadata. Nobody said that. The sheriff has said there weren't any. And that's on the 24th. And on that day is when Cameron announced that, the subscription lapsed. Now, that's from the family who are responsible for this. Who is responsible? He's this big. Savannah said that when she called her brother, he said, "Oh, this sounds like a targeted attack." That's funny. Why would they target her? Because of her daughter? Took a while. Maybe it's because of her son. We'll get to that in the members only. But he's the first one to think it was targeted. Well, he would be targeted. In fact, his theory fits exactly what I said happened to Butler, Pennsylvania. And he has the exact same theory. And the funny thing is, I think he's more closely connected to that and maybe feeling some pressure. That attack at Butler, Pennsylvania wasn't aimed at Donald Trump. Donald Trump was listen, let me fill you in on it. Here's a scoop. The clay pigeon of Pennsylvania Avenue is just a red herring. He's a distraction. He's a sideshow. He's the shiny. He's the Charles Manson of the White House. He's just there to keep you entertained. They've taken one man and put him in front of you. He's the most interesting, entertaining, so you won't notice what's going on right around you. This is from an expert. She's the one who did it, by the way. She's the one who put Charles Manson in front of the public as much as anybody else. Charles Manson was the Pablo Escobar of the Catherine Sher gang. Charlie was interesting. That's the point. The most interesting president I can remember. Maybe some of you can remember farther back than I can. They gave up trying to make fun of him on the smart shows. How do you make fun of somebody? How do you make fun of Monty Python? How do you make fun of Jerry Lewis? How do you make fun? Also on the 26th, okay, now this is the 26th. Oh, this is March 26th. In this interview, now, on February 3rd, why don't I have this where it belongs? Let's see. On February the 3rd, okay, both of these are in the wrong place. On February 3rd, an unnamed source close to the investigation, Savannah Guthrie, or her brother, because anybody else would be breaking the law. She's not breaking the law by revealing this. If she was there, and there's no specific gag order. She can talk about this, but it's an unnamed source. Signs of forced entry found at Arizona home of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother. So on the 3rd, we get 3 things. News Nation finds the blood. So later on that day, an unnamed source tells AP, and Savannah could get access to AP, that signs of forced entry found. Now, those signs of forced entry supposedly turn out to be the back door was forced open. Now, on March the 26th, Savannah was interviewed by Matt Lauer's replacement, now sitting next to Savannah in the captain's chair. I'm going to go through this. Doors were propped open at missing mother's Arizona home. Savannah Guthrie recounts an interview. Well, she didn't get there till like 3:30, 4 o'clock. Cops in and out. Yeah, the doors were propped open. There's a point in the interview where she talks about... But here's the thing. There's the back door, and it doesn't show any signs of... And after the ransom note came in, they came and took down this floodlight fixture, because the ransom note said it was broken. So they took it down after that ransom note came in. But see, here's February 6th. It's still in place. When did the ransom note... Made mention of details all the way back on February 3rd, right? So on the 6th, they go back and they take down the floodlight. They didn't take this very seriously. And I don't take it seriously either. Investigators, John Bonet, they knew instantaneously that was not a kidnapping. They knew it instantaneously. For one thing, they knew that Patsy was not supposed to call 911. They knew that. And that family had a funny history that week with 911 calls. Very funny history. They knew something was up. They knew it wasn't a kidnapping. Christmas Eve, the night before Christmas Eve, the 911 got a butt dial call from the Ramsey house. Nobody on the other end of the line. They could hear voices in the far background. So the phone hung up after a few minutes, and they tried calling back. No answer, so they sent a unit. And of all people, I'm going off on a tangent. Susan Stein came to the door and wouldn't let the cops in and would not bring the Ramseys to the door, but she said it was okay. It was just an accident. Everything's okay. That was Susan Stein. I only mentioned it because Susan Stein was Benjamin Netanyahu's TA in the business class he took at MIT. So we know this is a lie. Signs of forced entry found. We know that's a lie. But it's not attributed to anybody, but it has to be a member of the family. We know that's a lie. And when she said the doors were propped open, well, yeah, cops don't keep opening and closing doors at crime scenes. They prop the doors open so they can get in and out. So that doesn't prove shit. You see? But she didn't lie. The doors were propped open. I believe that. She goes on in the interview to talk about how it felt to be in the house. Those doors were propped open and I just knew something was off. She didn't say anything about how it... Well, let me ask. The interviewer didn't ask her. Hoda forgot to ask her. By the way, the questions obviously were written by Savannah. But let me ask, if nobody else will ask. Savannah, how did it feel when you first saw the blood on the front porch of your mother's house? How'd that feel? How did it feel when you went to check? So, hey, we got a doorbell. Oh my God, there's blood in front of the front door. She had a doorbell camera. Let's go check the video clip, see what happened. How did you feel when you realized that some member of the family, whether you or somebody else, maybe your mother, maybe your brother-in-law, maybe your brother, maybe your sister, how did you feel when you discovered that you'd let this... How did that feel? How did it feel when you first noticed that the doorbell camera was missing? I don't think you're revealing any information helpful to the kidnappers if you told us how it felt when you were standing there and the doors were propped open and your mother was gone. I understand, it's very disturbing. How did it feel when you first saw the blood on the front porch? How did it feel when you first realized there weren't going to be any security camera videos because somebody let the subscription to Nest Aware lapse? How did that feel? There. There's no law says you have to answer my questions, but if you want me to feel sorry for you, you know, how many times did she go on TV and squirt crocodile tears? You see, she's the real victim here. You'll get my sympathy when you start answering some very important questions. Well, you want me to feel sorry for you? I need to be convinced that your mother was kidnapped. I'm not convinced she was a victim of a violent crime. All the evidence suggests that she died of natural causes. She probably fell, and when she fell, you know, I'm getting up in age too. I'm not even 84 years old. She fell like this. Oh, I'm sorry. She fell like this. She fell like this, and her Apple Watch got too close to the pacemaker, and it went into charge mode or whatever. It's called pacemaker syndrome, and it causes you to cough up blood. And if you don't get medical treatment right away, it can be fatal. How did it feel when you first noticed the blood on the front porch? You didn't even look. Did anybody look in the pool? I mean, obviously she wasn't in the pool, or maybe it's not so obvious. Did anybody look in the pool? Did anybody look in the guest house? Did you walk around the house? If you want to blame the sheriff for not noticing this, they don't. It's like the John Bonet case. Our daughter's been kidnapped. Okay, we're going to search the house. They don't have legal authority to do that. My mother's missing. Okay, we're going to march through and search your house. They just assume that you did. In fact, I'll bet dollars to donuts they were told that the house had been searched, so they didn't bother looking. Because this is February 3rd, and the cops did not remove that doormat for testing to see if it had hair and fiber evidence. They just left it there. They didn't know it was there until News Nation 2 days later went there and found it. And all of a sudden the narrative changed. It had to change. Maybe it wasn't on the charge. We don't know where the watch was. We just know what Nancy told us. Now that was February 24th. So not even anonymous sources ever mentioned anything about any blood on the porch. Not even the anonymous sources who blabbed about signs of a break-in. No one, not even anonymous sources, ever mentioned any missing camera. A lot of profilers think the motivation was personal, not financial, because nobody believes this was a legitimate kidnapping except Savannah's brother, and that's according to what Savannah has said. Yeah, they busted one guy. There are a lot of phony ransom notes. Would the sheriff play fall guy if the Gunthries told him to? Perhaps you weren't paying attention, Millard. I mentioned, no, I'm going to go into more detail in members only. Maybe I'll just do that later. It's getting late. It took a while to get online. I just wanted to, let me test. I got to do members only. Let me test it. So let's just do that. Let me just recap what you saw yesterday. We have proven that this guy was there at least 3 to 4 hours, possibly even 24 hours after the blood was originally spilled. Oh, before I get off of here, let me give this guy some credit. I can't rule him out for being the dingleberry on the doorbell camera. Doesn't necessarily rule him in either. I'll show you everything I got that suggests it might be him. But the guy on the doorbell cameras, and all the experts confirm he's wearing Merrill Nova shoes. That's what left that bloody print. In the only video that we have of him, we don't know when this was taken, but we know how people are loyal to their shoe brands. If it's any consolation, in this video, he is wearing Adidas shoes. So, the same color and style, maybe. They are clearly Adidas shoes. So, That's the first thing I found that at least rules him out. This does at least, if he was wearing Meryl Nova's, that might be a little, it still wouldn't prove anything. I wouldn't vote guilty. This guy even making the video. But clearly the guy was there after the bloodstains were already there, see? We know that for a fact now. It's all about changing the narrative. So let me try going members only and see if that works. Well, it still takes 5 minutes. Schedule. Okay, now it successfully scheduled it. I know it's a problem if I use OBS Studio and I'm streaming to YouTube. It's a problem going from pregame to members only, but that's not going to break the show, okay? Thank you, Toad. Like kicking puppies. So anyway, the sheriff, he's an elected official. Smiling on a cloudy day, sitting on a sidewalk when it's raining. Oh, there's a better one. Oh, I just heard one the other day in a movie. It's a great line from a movie. I think it's from a movie. Oh, shit. Well, it's a movie about, there is a movie. It's one of those movies they made after World War II about yuppies, young men, and they're getting into business. So it's kind of like The Graduate, okay? Well, this older man, they're leaving the meeting, and he recognizes this boy, and he's like, oh, he said, I've done this, I've done that, and I don't regret a single day. And that day was August 12th, 1938 or something. Like there's only one day he doesn't regret. Well, you needed to see all that other stuff, Toad. So that you'll know, number one, I know what I'm talking about. Number two, how this is not an isolated case, right? Now that I've drilled it into your heads what the standard operating procedure is, you see it at work, right? And it turns out that these people are heard. The narrative is that she answered the door to a stranger and got attacked in this wise, and somehow left a trail of blood, either crawling or was dragged. Then they released this video, and what really happened was she tripped and fell. Her Apple Watch got too close to her pacemaker. That goes into a different mode, which causes pacemaker syndrome. So by the time she got to the door, she collapsed, coughing up blood, which is what happens when you go through pacemaker syndrome. And remember, it isn't just that these people might have a motive to lie. They have a history of telling really big lies, really important lies, big ones, and specifically calling evidence a hoax. I'm waiting for them to call the bloodstains a hoax, because I called it a hoax. I still think she might be alive. They could have planted that blood, but this gets complicated. And by the way, Mark Kelly's connected to this. You know how I know? I'll show you. That's what we're going to talk about, members only. Because I have solved them, Toad. You need to read this book. Because they're all connected, Toad. They're all connected. They are all connected. A lot of them are. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I knew there would be some, once I realized they really were connected, I knew exactly where to look for the actual real world connections, and it was all there. Those are Grateful Dead quotes. Which ones? What are Grateful Dead quotes? A closely guarded plan. He's a sideshow for sure. Oh, okay. I got you. I got it. What you really need to know, Toad, is I debunk Graysmith's book paragraph by paragraph. He lied. That's important because Maury Terry, I don't think he lied so much, but he was used. Oh, spitting on the sidewalk? I got you. Yeah. Have you heard that song, Walking My Cat Named Dog? by Norma Tadega, or whatever the hell her name was. Or have you heard the song Let It All Hang Out? Some country DJ made a novelty song called Let It All Hang Out about it, and it's great. It's really great. No parking by the sewer sign. Blah, 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 blah. It's too much, man. Let it all hang out. It's a really good one. Yeah, listen to Let It All Hang Out and Walking My Cat Named Dog. You can find those free on YouTube.